If you've listened to this show, then you've probably at some point thought about hiring some support for your podcast. And so today I want to talk about the 3 things that you need to keep in mind when hiring any kind of support, be that a podcast production agency like ours, a podcast manager, a podcast VA, a podcast editor, whatever it is. There are 3 things you need to be considering about yourself and asking them. Let's get into it. Welcome to Uncommonly More with Stacey Harris. I am Stacey. I'm the host of this show and the CEO of podcast production agency Uncommonly More. My team and I work with podcasters just like you to shift shows from frustrating time sucks to productive members of sales teams with professional, strategic podcast production. You know what? I think that's enough. Let's get into the show and we'll talk more there. What I love most about this conversation is that it's going to help you build out the questions you're going to ask me when we sit down, because these sort of 3 pieces are not just what you need to be considering going into it, but whoever you work with should be able to answer these same questions. If as we move through today's conversation, you hear me mention something and you're like, yes, I want to know more about that, make sure you check out the description in the show notes for this episode, because I will have links to a couple of other episodes that I have done sort of about this topic, as well as an episode called What Working with Uncommonly More Looks Like. And that actually walks you through exactly what working with our team looks like, so you can get an understanding of if that feels good for you, if that sounds like what you are looking for. And if it is, let's have a conversation. And if it's not, it gives you something to start with. What other thing do I want here instead? You can use it sort of as a starting place of yes or no, just sort of checking in. Does that sound exciting? Cool. Does that not sound exciting? Does that sound horrible? Cool. So I will link to that episode and any other episodes I mentioned in the description in your podcast player, or of course you can head over to the website and you'll find it all there. I do also want to be really clear, we do have some space to take on some clients in Q1. So if this is something on your radar for Q1, let's have that conversation sooner rather than later so that you can get the clarity you need around who you're ready to work with, who you are going to get support with. Going back to what we talked about in the very first episode of the new year, where we were talking about changes to make to help your show thrive, getting some support, whatever that support may look like in 2022 is what we're going to do. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but we're going to go with it. I want to dig in because I want to keep this one kind of brief, but I want to jump in with your recording style. The very first thing I want you to be considering is your recording style, the rhythm in which you move through your show. Because this is a huge indicator of the kind of team you're going to want to work with. I know that some clients love, or some podcasters, I should say, love being ahead. And so they're batching in big chunks and then not recording for huge chunks of time, and then batching in huge chunks. If that's the style you want to work with, cool. We would be a great fit for you. Several of our clients are that way. We love working ahead. We actually built our whole system so our clients' episodes are due 4 weeks before they're going to release. That way, we not only have time to get it produced, but our clients have time to do the necessary prep as far as getting emails written and social posts scheduled, and all of those marketing pieces are ready to go. On the flip side, maybe you're somebody who wants to record every single week. They just want to record 1 episode every week, and that's the rhythm they've been on, and that's the rhythm they want to stay on. Cool. Make sure, though, that you sit down and you work out your timing with your team. We also have clients like this. Now, they still have due dates of 4 weeks before an episode releases, but instead of having one due date for a month's worth of episodes, they have due dates every single week, and they're just run 4 weeks ahead of what their release schedule would be. That way, they can keep rolling with a weekly schedule, a weekly recording session, and we still stay ahead and they still stay batched. It's awesome. Another way you might work is where you record and release, and you're not looking to be a whole lot ahead on your show. You're not you kind of like to be in the moment. You want to be recording, releasing, promoting all at the same time because you are sort of shooting from the hip or sharing what feels really in the moment for you. Also totally doable. This one, though, is where you're going to have a harder time finding a team, especially a larger team. For example, with our model, this is really, really impossible because in the course of producing a show, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 people touch every show. Every episode that goes out, 4 to 5 people on our team touch it. And so to do that in a couple of days is quite hard. However, if you are just working with an editor and you have a very specific rhythm, your show goes out on, let's say, Friday, and you record them on, let's say, Monday or Tuesday, and you know that, and your editor knows that. And so they've just got that Tuesday time ready to edit and release your show for you, or edit and get it back to you so you can release it. That's completely possible. However, you're going to want to find a support team, be a person or an agency, that understands that that's what you want to do and can work on a similar schedule. So your recording style is super, super important. When we talk about recording style, though, we're not just talking about sort of your frequency of actually getting recorded, but what are you handing over to your editor? Are you looking to have someone just clean up general audio quality, removes pops and clicks, and mix in your intro, outro, any promos that you have? Are you looking for someone to help edit content from a story perspective? So they're actually going in and cutting out lines or cleaning up places where you flubbed? Are you handing over something where you've sort of got a break? We have some clients who clap. We have some clients who pause. But we generally get audios from our clients where there are some flubs. There are some things we need to tweak. And so our team goes through and we clean those things up. That, however, is something you need to ask about because not every editor is the same. So you're going to want to be really clear on what you want to hand over and what you want to get back. That's going to be really, really important for you to understand about your style. I, for example, am not somebody who super likes to have to reset or restart so often. I'll sort of just pause, or I'll clap, or I will create some sort of change in the waveforms so that we can sort of pretty quickly go through and edit those and clean them up. You can sort of see where I wanted to start and stop. But I know that, and my team knows that. We know that about our clients. So it's important for you to understand that about yourself and your editor to understand it. Let's shift gears to the second thing I want you to be considering when you're hiring support this year. What are your goals? What are the goals for your podcast? Because different goals are going to need different kinds of support. If your goal this year is to increase your listenership, is to get more people listening because you want to be able to sell merch, or you want to be able to sell ads, or you want to be able to create partnership opportunities or attract a different kind of guests or sell your show to somebody, whatever it may be, then you're going to have different goals than somebody who's looking to see better marketing results from their show. They're trying to sell a service or a product. And so they're looking to take the audience they have and get them to do a specific thing. And yes, maybe grow their show, but also grow their show with a very specific person, not just more people. Again, your goals are going to be different. And it's really important that you understand the kind of shows whoever you hire works with. For example, that second show would be a much better fit for us than the first show. We don't tend to work with shows where selling ad space is the goal. Our shows for our clients are genuinely content marketing. It's 100% a tool to sell their service, their program, their coaching packages, whatever the case may be. And so that's how we approach show development. That's how we approach strategy. That's how we approach the decisions that we're making with our hosts. And those are going to be different. And so a show where you're looking to get massive audience reach so that you can sell ad spots or sell your show completely to a larger podcasting group, 100% not a bad plan. I'm just not the girl to get you there because it's not what I do. And so it's really, really, really important that you have a clear understanding of the goals for your show and ask everybody who you're sitting down with and talking to, what are the goals for the shows you work with? What do you consider to be an important end result of the work we do together? That's critical. The third thing, because we're going to keep this baby short and sweet, is your budget. And I don't mean this in a like, oh, well, if you don't have a certain budget, you're just not going to be offered any help at all. No. Understand that the kind of support you have can grow with you. I have said this so many times, but I'm going to say it again. The bulk of the shows we work with are not launches. Most of the shows we work with are right around a year old. Sometimes a little less, sometimes 6 or 8 months, sometimes a little longer, sometimes 18 or even 24 months. But generally speaking, there's somewhere around that 1 year anniversary of launching their show. And they either DIY'd when they started, or maybe they had an editor that they hired through something like Fiverr or Upwork, where it was very much so contractual, project-based. Here's the audios, clean them up, and I get them back. They kept it simple. They didn't have a ton of support with show notes and graphics and audiograms and all of the things we do, because that's not where the best use of their budget was yet. They were choosing to invest more time instead of money. And that's totally okay. But understand what your budget is. And I sort of breezed past something, and I really want to circle back to it. This idea of both your time and your money. You're going to be spending both of those things. If you decide to podcast, you are going to spend both time and money. It's just the way it is. But you get to decide what the percentage is. I choose to spend more money than time on this show at this point because I just record it. And my team goes in and does all of the production. They're editing, they're creating the transcripts, they're getting the show notes ready, they're getting everything uploaded and scheduled. The same thing we do for our clients happens to this show. That wasn't always the case. For a very long time, I did all of it myself. And so my time budget was higher than my money budget. So you need to understand, for you right now, and again, this is not for all time necessarily, but for you right now, what do you have more of? If you have more time than you have money, great. Maybe it's quarter or annual strategy calls with a strategist who can help you make the decisions for your show. Maybe it is an editor to help you be producing the cleanest, best quality audio than you can right now. Maybe it is some support around getting guest bookings on other shows so that you can find a larger audience for your show. Maybe it is a VA or admin person who can help you in marketing your show. I often recommend this before you get help in producing your show because there's really no sense in producing a show that no one's listening to. So you got to make sure you can get people to listen to it. But make sure that whatever it is right now is in alignment with how you want to be spending both your time and your money. For me, I started investing money in having my team help me get the show produced so that I could reallocate my time budget elsewhere, so that I could spend more time marketing the show, so that I could spend more time being over on other people's podcasts and sitting down for some of those conversations. But you need to be clear on your budget right now. What do you have in the time bank? What do you have in the money bank to be investing in the production and marketing of your show, of this asset? That's what's absolutely the most important. If you enjoyed this show and you want to hear more about making some of these decisions or some ways that can be helpful and clarifying on when it's time to get to support or the kind of support to get, I want to point you to a couple of shows. And again, these are in the description in your podcast player. There's links to them. If you go look at 513, it's called When It's Time to Get Professional Support with Your Podcast. This talks about the things that you need to have an understanding of in your business before you should be looking at any kind of support. So we're going to talk about things like the kind of questions you need to be asking yourself and be able to answer before it's a worthwhile investment for you. That's a good one. I will link to it in the description. Also, 3 signs it's time to hire your support for your podcast is 531. I like this show because it's a really good way to start recognizing some of the red flags that have been, or maybe even yellow flags that have been waving themselves in front of you when you're podcasting and going like, please stop this. And then the final thing I want to point you in the direction of is 488. And it's called Who Should You Hire to Produce Your Podcast? And in this episode, we're talking about sort of the different options, the different kinds of people who you could be hiring. Again, whether it's a team like us or freelancers or more of a virtual assistant situation, it's going to be really helpful in you clarifying what your right fit right now is. Again, I will link to those in the show notes. If you're listening to this going, Stacy, what are you even talking about? I want to hire you immediately because you are incredible and your team is too. Then head over to uncommonlymore.com/podcast production and hit the button that says chat with Uncommonly More and book a time for you and I to sit down and chat. If you made it to this point of the show and you still happen to be listening, which statistically is unlikely, I want to say thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I want to hear from you. So reach out on social or via email and let me know what actions you're going to take from today's episode, because honestly, that's why we produce this show. That's why I record this show. That's why my team does all the work to release this show. Is so that we can help you. You can help make a difference in your show and consequently in your business. If you haven't left a review for the show, head over to ratethispod.com/more. It's an easy way to show some love to the show and also help us reach more podcasters who are looking for the same kind of support you were looking for. If you have any suggestions or ideas or thoughts you would like me to address on the show, be sure to reach out. Again, like I say a lot, this is the start of the conversation, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say.